The hot stove rule of Douglas MacGregor gives a good illustration of how to impose disciplinary action without generating resentment. This rule draws an analogy between touching a hot stove and undergoing discipline. When you touch a hot stove, your discipline is immediate, with warning, consistent, and impersonal. MacGregor has suggested that disciplining and penalties should occur immediately before the commission of an erroneous or insufficient act with advance warning, in the sense that the worker knows what is expected and what the action will be towards him if he does not live up to the expectations. Consistently against all individuals who commit the same shortcoming under the same conditions, and impersonally in that personalities are not criticized, but the deed or action receives the corrective or punitive action. According to MacGregor, hot stove rule implies that if the rules and penalties are clear and well understood, a violation produces some natural consequences. Just as the penalty for touching the stove is immediate, that is, the burning of fingers occur at once, so in a sound disciplinary system, the penalty for the violation should be immediate, almost automatic. Disciplinary action delay can do positive harm to the organization and affect the morale of other workers who are law-abiding. There are two other characteristics of the hot stove which a sound disciplinary system should possess, namely impartiality or consistency and impersonality. The principle of impartiality is that under identical situations, when even the extenuating circumstances are alike, there should not be marked difference in the action taken. The hot stove burns all fingers or all limbs that touch it in the manner, whether it is a child or a beautiful young damsel or an old man who touches the stove. The principle of impersonality implies that the hot stove does not have any kind of subjective or personal feeling in inflicting pain and suffering or anyone who touches it. Similarly, the disciplinary authority should neither have a sense of elation or triumph or sadistic pleasure when a delinquent employee is brought to book. The disciplinary authority should neither be happy nor sad when, after going through the proper process, action is taken against the defaulter in order to maintain the discipline in the organization and also to train him for the right conduct. Now we look at the procedure of disciplinary action. Positive discipline is not just a simple act of supervisor discussing performance problems with employee. Rather, it is a procedure comprising of a number of steps. Following are the important steps in that procedure. Let us discuss these steps briefly. First is location of responsibility. The question who should administer discipline is a subject to some debate. In one view, the responsibility for administering discipline should fall on the shoulders of immediate supervisor of the employee. The reason being, the immediate supervisor is responsible for employee's output. He or she also knows better about employees' performance problems. Hence, in order to overcome the problem of where to place the responsibility for discipline, the supervisor should be entrusted with the responsibility to administer less severe forms of discipline, such as an oral warning or a written notice. And for serious situations involving discharge or suspension, the supervisor should consult with HR representatives in order to administer such disciplines. Next is to define performance expectations. A core ingredient in every disciplinary process is to clearly define the standards of behavior that management expects from its employees. Employee standards of performance or behavior must be in conformity with the organizational objectives. Obviously, these standards need to be revised along with the change in organizational goals and objectives. Many organizations provide their employees with written principles of behavior in the form of employee manuals. Third is communication of policy, procedures and rules. In order to maintain satisfactory levels of employee performance, the disciplinary procedure, the policy and rules framed by the organizations need to be clearly communicated to the employees. Employees about their expected behavior should be communicated through employee handbooks, manuals, orientation programs, rules and regulations distributed in writing to employees or posted on bulletin boards. Fourth is collection of performance data. Before an employee is disciplined, it is the utmost importance to prove that some rule, regulation or standard is violated and thus unsatisfactory performance has taken place. While collecting some performance data, it is found that some are easy while others are difficult. For example, an employee's absence routinely recorded is rarely subjected to misinterpretation. However, there are measures of performance such as horseplay, insubordination, and abusive language to supervisors, which are somewhat subjective and difficult to record. The next is framing charges and intimation. Once the prima facie case of employee's misconduct is established, the employer then issues a notice to the employee stating charges labelled against him. Such a notice is generally known as the show cause notice. In the notice, each charge sheets need to be clearly specified. Also, the accused employees should be given an opportunity to explain his or her position. Now comes the consideration of explanation. On receipt of explanation from the accused employee, the management may consider any one of the three types of options available to it. The first is, if the accused employee confesses the charge labelled against him or her, the management can dispense any further inquiry and award punishment to the accused employee. In case the management is satisfied with the explanation given by the accused, the charge against him or her can be cancelled, and if the subsequent management is not satisfied with the explanation given by the accused, the management can proceed to further probing of the matter so that the fact is established and an appropriate action can be taken. The next is awarding of the punishment. Once the unsatisfactory performance of the accused is well established, the management then awards punishment to the accused employee. As already mentioned, while rewarding punishment, the management should follow a procedure of progressive discipline. The last step is the follow-up. The last step is the procedure of positive discipline and is follow-up. It means once the punishment is awarded, it is necessary to keep the vigil whether the punishment has a salutary effect on the behavior and performance of the accused employee or not. If not, the corrective measures like corrective counseling should be introduced to improve the accused behavior. Thank you.